Well, ladies and gentlemen, I guess you could say we took one day off from the Michigan cheating scandal because really on Saturday there wasn't much to report. We had college football going on. But last night there were rumors of Michigan possibly having some type of meeting. Not sure if that actually happened. A Sunday night meeting would be pretty crazy, but you can see this news. Michigan has pulled Jim Harbaugh's new contract offer that would have made him the highest paid Big Ten coach. The thought process here, it would just be bad optics for Michigan. They want to let the investigation play out. At least that's how they're swinging it. And at the end of the investigation, whatever it reveals, Michigan will move forward and possibly give Harbaugh a new contract. Very likely, I would expect this to be Harbaugh's last year either way. Although we are still speculating, we're not at the stage yet where we can definitively say Michigan blatantly did something that was against the rules. You would think we'd be there because the NCAA is investigating and the Big Ten did put out a pretty embarrassing statement. The only reason you would think the Big Ten would put out a statement like that was if they knew something was amiss. And we also do have a new article from Sports Illustrated. Multiple sources from one Big Ten school told SI that a coach at a different school called them before playing Michigan to warn them about Wolverines ball boys on their sideline listening to play calls and communicating information to the Michigan sideline, holding the football up in one hand to indicate unexpected pass and in the other hand to indicate a run, for instance. Sources at the school that was warned said they experienced nothing in the game to implicate the Michigan ball boys. How crazy would that be if it's that widespread with Michigan to where we've heard rumors Michigan possibly hacking into Ohio State's game practice footage from a cloud? We've got this stuff now where this is basically, if this is true, and you can see the sources saying, there's nothing there, but who knows? I mean, why would you make something like this up? It does seem like kind of an elaborate cheating scheme where the ball boys, kind of like the Houston Astros did, where they'd bang on the trash can to indicate a fastball or an off-speed pitch, the ball boys holding up the ball in their one hand to indicate a pass versus a run. Could you imagine, and this is all going to come out if it is true, getting video during one of these games of the Michigan ball boys holding up, a ball in their right hand, and then that signals to Michigan that it is a run? I mean, it's just all crazy. Again, this is all alleged. We don't know if this is true. You can't sit here and say it is true. You've got to give the school the benefit of the doubt. You've got to prove it. But either way, guys, when it comes to this entire scandal and just doing more research into it, there are multiple angles we have to look at when it comes to Michigan and their potential loophole, because there's two different ways Michigan can really approach this. Number one, they can say, we hired a third party to go do the filming, and that's not against, the NCAA law. Although you would think that that's kind of a really stupid law considering, if you could just hire someone to do your bidding for you, everything would be legal. You just hire an outside private third party to do it. So that seems kind of ridiculous. Maybe that's the Michigan loophole they're going for. Again, I've said multiple times, there has to be something Michigan was doing to safeguard themselves against a situation like this, and we've heard nothing from Michigan. Jim Harbaugh deletes all of his tweets going back to 2020. There could be multiple reasons why he would do something like that. Most likely his lawyers telling him to do that, him getting legal advice, whatever. Is it a big deal? Is it not? We really don't know. It's not like there was anything that was crazy on Twitter. It was just probably something that they advised him to do. He didn't really tweet very much anyways, but he kind of purged his Twitter over the last 3 years. When it comes to this, Michigan's either going to argue that Connor Stalions was just a total nut job. He acted alone. He was totally delusional. He had a 600-page Michigan manifesto. He was on a $50,000 salary, and he thought he was going to be the head coach at one point. Obviously, if that is true, and he did have a 600-page Michigan manifesto, it's very clearly we are dealing with someone who's very delusional. There's no denying that. And what Michigan can say is, oh, he's crazy, he's a kook, he hired these people. But again, the math is not mathing when it comes to his salary being what it was compared to the crazy network that Michigan had. Now, obviously, it is very important if Michigan wants to try and use a loophole to make sure that Stalions or any other Michigan staffer or employee was not at any of these games doing the filming. We got the story, I believe it was from ESPN on Friday. They interviewed, because I think they tracked the Venmo payment history, and they found a former Division III coach, which was hired, independently, not part of Michigan's staff, to do the spying. And I'm guessing that's what Michigan did. They would find kind of these football people who really weren't doing much, like a Division III coach, whatever, and they said, hey, you want to go film here? You'll get some money, whatever. I mean, it's just crazy considering the guy admitted that he didn't really care. He was supposed to film Penn State sideline against UMass, and he left at halftime because it was a miserable game. If you guys remember, it was raining. I mean, the whole thing just seems so ridiculous. And again, it's like with the NCAA laws, you wouldn't think there should be a loophole like that to where you could just hire people that, weren't part of the Michigan staff to do this. You would assume that that would be illegal. And I think that's what they're trying to figure out in their investigation as it continues to play out. But again, when it comes to anything happening to Michigan this season, the problem that Michigan is going to face is if we do get stuff that's released to the general public, it's going to expedite this process exponentially. If everything stays quiet and the general public doesn't know anything, they're totally in the dark, they don't know how extensive this was, this could be something that you kind of sweep under the rug and you say, well, maybe Michigan will get the wins vacated, maybe they won't. You play out the season, whatever. If more and more of this stuff does come out, which it's looking like it's going to, considering stuff gets leaked every day, it's going to be very damning, and you're going to have the public outrage, which is really going to put pressure on the Big Ten and on the College Football Playoff Committee. The issue is Michigan fans are starting to say, well, now everyone knows that we were cheating, so they're going to change their plays. Yes, but why should teams be forced to dedicate hours upon hours in changing all of their plays and all of their signs because you cheated? Isn't that just another advantage for Michigan? Instead of preparing for the game week, they have to change all of their signs because you're going to basically every single Ohio State game this year. Remember, Michigan was doing it this year. It was a full-fledged network. They were sending people to the Ohio State-Penn State game who didn't end up going. I think there was a rumor that it was Connor Stalions. Now, I don't think it could have been Connor Stalions, but it was someone. I'm sure, again, the thought is that Michigan wouldn't be stupid enough to send one of their staffers if they want to try and use the loophole of, oh, it's a third party. Then it becomes, how does that person get the money to go to those games? Is it coming from Michigan? Is it coming from a booster? How do they finagle that? Is it coming from a potential someone that's completely outside of Michigan? Because if I was going to do a cheating thing, the money would not be coming from anyone within Michigan. You would just get a Michigan super fan who's really rich and say, hey, listen, I mean, it doesn't cost very much money, especially if you're a millionaire and you're retired, to fund this operation. And yeah, this is a great investment considering Michigan's beaten Ohio State the last 2 years. If you ask Michigan after 2020 what they would trade for that, I mean, it would be a lot. So this whole thing is really interesting, and I think Michigan is going to try and use a loophole. The Connor Stalions thing, to me, like the idea, oh, he's a rogue actor, it's crazy. It completely falls flat considering his status within the Michigan sideline during those playoff games, basically telling Michigan's defensive coordinator what the play was. How's he going to know that? Do you think all of the Michigan staff was just like, oh my God, this guy is just disseminating the signals in the first quarter, that's why he knows every single play? Obviously, they were in on it. That's completely ridiculous. I think the loophole is what they're going to try and use. But yeah, apparently this could be so widespread. You could say, well, this is just made up. Why would somebody make this up about the ball boys possibly doing this? Again, you would need video, and you could find video, I'm sure, of them kind of, doing some type of pattern, holding up different balls. We don't know if it's confirmed, but either way, that's kind of where we're at in terms of the Michigan scandal, and I'm sure we're going to get more developments, and if we get more and more information and it looks worse and worse for Michigan, you could be looking at Michigan being advised to put Harbaugh, on an indefinite suspension. I think that would be the next step if this gets really accelerated and if more and more info comes out and if the journalists keep digging, because obviously right now they're trying to get big stuff. It's great for clicks. Michigan fans hate it. Pretty much everyone else really enjoys seeing this because it's just interesting as it continues to play out. But overall, I mean, it's terrible for college football, obviously, if Michigan does have this advantage. And then the other thing Michigan, I guess you could try and do is see if other teams were doing it. You know, that was one of the Houston Astros' big thing, and they ended up getting virtually no punishment. But obviously, there's a big black eye when it comes to them winning their World Series. They tried to argue, oh, the Boston Red Sox are using Apple Watches, the Yankees are using technology. It was basically, we get caught, let's blame everyone else. You know, that's something that you commonly see when it comes to teams getting accused of cheating. The other thing I wanted to say, and this was really a take that happened last week, all of the people saying everyone steals signs. It has nothing to do with stealing signs in and of itself. If you say that, you lack nuance. You don't understand the actual investigation. It's the same thing with the Houston Astros saying everyone steals signs. You just don't understand what the Houston Astros are being accused of if that is your take. You don't get it. It's the way in which it's being done. If Michigan really is doing that and it is illegal, Michigan's going to have so much more information going into their game than any other team because they're obtaining that information illegally. Obviously, if you've got someone like Brett Venables, the Ohio State Ryan Day, accusing him of stealing signs, that's on Ryan Day. If it is a thing to where you have someone, and this is perfectly illegal, you could have someone like Connor Stalions whose job is to decipher the signs, and then at halftime say, this is what they're doing, this is what they're doing. That's why you've got to be able to change it up, but you can't pregame for it and go to basically every single Penn State game, every single Ohio State game. It got so bad they were going to different SEC teams because they didn't want to face that Tennessee offense in the playoffs, so they gave South Carolina all of Tennessee's signals, and then South Carolina comes out wearing wristbands, every defensive player, to be able to remember what the Tennessee signals are, you know, what's a run, what's a pass. I mean, this is so out of control at this point. You really got to wonder, how deep does it get and what more information are we going to receive? Now it's getting to the ball boys possibly being included as well, but that is not confirmed. Either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on X. Link to that's always in the description.